welcome everyone once again to this week's Fixing Football podcast. I'm your host Martin Naylor, and this week we're joined by Liam O'Meara and Luke Foley, who is back from his travels, and we got into the hot topic of the moment, which is the men in the middle, the referees, the new rule changes and what's been going on that side of the game, everything from Howard Webb coming out publicly to the minute details of the new rules that they've been discussing and trying to implement and trying to get through to the players, which has seen a raft of yellow cards and knocking people's fantasy football points all over the gaff. So we got into it. Thank you everyone who's been supporting so far. It makes a real difference with the little likes and subscribes that people are doing, so continue to do so. Please share it with your friends. It does make a big difference going forward. It's something that we're all really enjoying, so thank you for listening. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you can find all our links to join in any conversation at fixingfootballpodcast.com. There you can get involved on Twitter, you can leave a comment on YouTube, you'll find everything there. So please do get in touch, and we're going to start going through them very soon. So thank you guys, and let's get into it. Alright boys, how are we doing? Liam, how's it going, mate?
Very, very well, Martin. How are you doing?
All good. Luke, welcome back. How have you been?
Yeah, not too bad. What about yourself?
Oh, I've been with you, so I've been alright. I'm going to get straight into it tonight. Luke, I'm going to start with you. The hot topic of the moment is refereeing. So we've had Mike Dean all over the show on Sky Sports and God knows whatever else other interviews he's been flapping on about, doing jobs for the boys and stuff. But referees seem to be like the big talking point of the season so far. We're only 3 games in, and it seems that the only thing people are talking about is it isn't actually VAR decisions as what we would have done this time last season, but more so referees, their performance, and the new rules changes that are being implemented. So we've seen sort of a follow-on from the World Cup where the add-on time was just mental, and people were like, "Oh, why is this so?" And I think it's down to one of the chief referees, sort of chief authorities in the game, Howard Webb. I brought up on an interview about Premier League games only being like 54 minutes of active play. So we saw that fall into World Cup games and sort of the realistic time being pushed to as the added on time, looking at like 12-30 minutes added on time. I mean, what have you made of it so far?
Well, in the World Cup, I really enjoyed it. I think a prime example is the Holland-Argentina game, where it was, I think, the 11th minute in extra time where Weghorst scored that goal against Argentina, and to bring that great striker. I thought it was really exciting in the World Cup, but now it's come to the Premier League and it's 11 minutes in the United game, and all I'm wanting is the game to end. It's not so enjoyable. So I'm in two minds of it. When it's not United, I'm all for it. When it is, I don't want it.
Liam, we've seen it in the EFL as well. Further down, what have you made of it at Bolton Wanderers level and teams around? What's the word?
I think the majority of fans hate it as well. I understand what it's trying to do, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a moment with regards to the issues around playing time and attacking time wasting. But again, I don't want to go too much into that right now. But in terms of the actual added time, it's ridiculous. I go to a night game that'll kick off at 7:45, and you're talking 50 odd minutes for the first half time, and then 50 odd minutes for the second half as well. Like, it's getting really late by the time I get home. And I can imagine if you've got a young family that you're taking the game to, it's just a joke.
For away fans especially.
Yeah, exactly. However, I understand what it's trying to achieve, but in terms of the actual practicality of it, I despise it.
Can I put a question to you both? It's something that was sort of posted around a bit on social media, but have you ever felt, not ever, but for the majority of games, felt shortchanged by the? Do you think time wasted been a big thing? Or
not shortchanged, but I hate time wasting. So I do think that needed addressing. I wouldn't say I sat there thinking, oh my God, I've only had 51 minutes of game time here. I want a refund on my Sky subscription. Nothing like that. But at the same time, there's supposed to be 90 minutes in a football match. So the time wasting often paid off for a lot of teams.
Liam, just on that though, is that not just style of play of certain teams that's causing no? So
no,
long-ball
I think,
team.
No, I think most teams time waste. To be honest, I think most do. In positions that they're in charge and winning games, I could give, if I'd spent 5 minutes, I could find an example of anyone time wasting. To be honest.
So Liam, explain to me, for the uneducated idiot, what the sort of changes the referee to combat time wasting.
Yeah, so essentially, it's quite a lot of changes in regards to how to combat exactly that. Ball in play is the idea. So firstly, you've got your added time that we've discussed that, where essentially any stoppage will be added on. And there is a directive on things like substitutions, injuries, these types of things. There's also, with injuries, if you've had treatment, you have to wait at least 30 seconds before you re-enter the pitch, which is quite an interesting one. Fans really don't seem to like that one that I've seen when I've been in stadiums. It really seems to wind people up. Also, other rule changes that you've got any time the ball is delaying the restart of play is a yellow card again. That used to be something that was quite followed up on in the past, but then it sort of went away for the last few years. But they're really tight on that. I mean, we saw a great example in the Liverpool-Newcastle game with Trent Alexander-Arnold throwing the ball away to essentially stop the throwing being taken quickly. Yeah, I mean, that one as well. And I think I've covered everything on there. I think a lot of it is about ensuring the players are re-educated. I think I've covered the real changes. Luke, is there anything you wanted to add?
Just 2 points. Start with the Newcastle and the Trent kind of situation. So I watched that game and I was a bit surprised that he didn't get a second yellow for the foul. I think it was like 5 minutes later, but essentially he got that yellow for chucking the ball away. Now, is that because there's such an incentive to kind of get this time wasting in, and then kind of all the other kind of rules just go out the door? Why was he not sent off? But there was more kind of focus on the actual time wasting aspect.
Well, I think that's a different issue, but I think the actual answer to it is, I think the ref bottled it a little bit. I also think it wasn't as nailed on yellow card as everyone seems to think, actually. I think it's one of those where Anthony Gordon made an absolute meal of it. It was a hand on the shoulder, and I think some referees wouldn't have given the foul there. However, I think the answer is that was an individual decision. I don't think other rules are being ignored. What do you reckon?
And then, sorry now.
Go on, Luke.
I was just going to say, in regards to the other rules where they're looking at the time, kind of keeping off aspects, so penalties, red cards, they're part of it. I suppose a lot of time, as we've seen, is VAR kind of time. So it's then not making that quick decision and leaving to VAR to kind of make the decision. And then the time's obviously ticking, and they're going to just be adding out to the extra time. So are they causing the extra time themselves?
Well, I think we saw a slight increase in the last sort of 18 months, about an increase in the time added on because of VAR. But I think now they're gonna start chucking that in as well with the rest of it and try and get that number up, the ball in play time.
So I don't know if you both watched Match of the Day on Sunday, but they did a few stats of the first few fixtures compared to last year, and ball in play last year was 54 minutes 52, and this year it's 58 54. So there has been a slight increase, but I think the yellow card increase is quite concerning. I think there was 113 last year and there's 130 this year, with 3 being descent last year and 24 this year, and time wasting 10 was 10 last year and 19 this year. So
This year already? That sounds high. But I mean, this is what sort of incentives are all about. I guess that you've got to implement them. You've got to implement them hard and get off the mark with them. I don't.
Just because they're higher, does that mean they're wrongly handed out?
No.
Or should it have been higher last year? Because delaying the restart of play, I'm sorry, that has been getting miles worse. And some of the top teams are the worst for it. Your Cities, your Liverpools, this idea of transitioning play and stopping it, it's been horrendous. And tactical fouling and getting into all that. So, no, it probably should be even higher than the 130. Probably still
is this going to remove the old adage of a team who are good at the dark arts? That a team who are known for, the Mourinho's Chelsea or Simeone's Atletico or someone like that who are known for this, what they call it, they're good at the dark arts.
Shithousing. Yeah, I think it will. I think that alongside VAR, yeah, because a lot of the off-the-ball stuff has stopped, really. You don't really see these off-the-ball incidents really anymore because of VAR. Diving has got better, Rashford aside, this weekend. But, I would say the time-wasting element, yeah, I think it will do because it'll just get added on. And I think these yellows keep getting handed out. Yeah, I think it will.
Luke, what do you make of Raphael Varane's comments? Following on there was all this stuff about the added on time, and then Varane come out with the statement about, and it was quite a measured statement about how many games people have to play. Basically, poor me, super rich footballer. But it was well worded. I mean, what did you make of it?
Well, it's been like that for a few years. It's usually Klopp that comes out, or one of the top managers. But this time it was Varane.
That's what I'm saying. It's refreshing to hear a player come out with them concerns as opposed to moaning managers.
His concern because he's very injury prone. So the more time he plays, the more likely he's going to get injured. And do you both know if in the cup games is that the same cases where we were going to have all this extra added time and then they're going to have the extra 30 minutes and plus another extra time to that and then penalties? Is that going to be the case as then? Because then we're looking at nearly 2-hour games.
Yeah, it's an IFAB directive, which that's the sort of the referee body for the across the world sort of FIFA who liaise with FIFA on this. And this is the same across the planet. Referees in every league, every cup competition, it should be happening on Sunday League. This is everything. So if, for example, if you watched anyone watching La Liga last weekend will have seen it was horrendous at La Liga. You were getting games at 110 minutes with the time added on. It was ridiculous with regards to it. So yeah, Luke, it will be. Yeah, it'll be everything. And I agree with your comments on Varane as well. It must be difficult. Obviously, he's only really gone to United for that payday. But he's actually having to play a few minutes. It must be really concerning for him. So yeah, I can understand why he of all people would come through with that.
Imagine having to put a shift once in a while.
But to be fair, it is a bit. It is concerning for the players, I suppose. Like if you're looking at a game that's 110 minutes, more injuries will probably be occurring.
For me, I didn't really ever feel shortchanged. Going back to the question before about the time in games, maybe one or two games. There was a few last. I know the Newcastle Arsenal match last season. I think it was like 33 minutes or something. The ball was in play. Newcastle were a team highlighted for it, but again, team known for being good at the dark arts, as it's referred to. But players do play a lot of games. You're looking at with an international tournament at the end of the year, you're looking at 70 odd games for a professional football at the top level, and it can be a lot.
Do you think this would affect the Arsenal squad?
No, I think we've. I think that's almost what we're prepared for in building a strong squad. I think you look at City over the last couple of years; you've had a massively strong squad, and in depth. And Liverpool, when they were challenging over the last couple of years, have had a really strong squad throughout.
Varane's not mentioned that, has he? You get 5 subs these last 2 years. So
that's true.
I just don't look. If they're that worried, take 10 minutes off training a week. because that's what you're talking, really. Like, I don't think there's any. I think it's just nonsense. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was reading when I read that. I was like, "Are you for real, mate?"
Yeah,
like, it's an extra 10 minutes. Like, what are you on about? Guy doesn't even move. He stands there anyway. He doesn't even move.
I understand. From my point of view, I liked that a player was speaking out about something rather than just some robot who usually does it for him. Get ChatGPT to make most of the tweets and stuff. But this poor me footballer thing, I don't think anyone is really sympathising with that much.
I just on that point though, I do think there is a problem with the fixture list and the amount of games there are. But in regards to the extra time, I think that's a different matter. And I probably maybe have a podcast about the fixture kind of list and maybe some solutions for that.
Yeah, we'll bring that one up next one. So one of the other big rule changes, not big rule changes, but something that the referees are trying to implement is about the teams being punished for surrounding referees and dissent especially. Liam, fill me in on some of the details that the referees are focusing on now.
Well, this is exactly what it says on the tin, really. Dissent is really being clamped down on. And I think this is something that a lot of people have wanted for quite a long time. But I think when it actually happens, people don't really like it because they see their team get a booking that they think is unfair or unjustified. I think it's something that I personally like. And I also think it's a problem that has come through VAR as well. Because when you have a VAR decision, you have that period where they're waiting to go to the television. And I think that's where a lot of problems, like Van Dijk yesterday, for example. Van Dijk had a little bit of a sort of 2 minutes where he didn't know whether he's getting sent off or not, and just laid into the referee for it. And I think that's why you've got to be careful with this period of time. It sort of crept in at the back end of last season where you saw like the third person running in, brandish the yellow card, even though they had a chance to say anything. But I am for it. I think the referee should be left alone to do their job.
Well, is this the Liam O'Meara that would run 45 yards to scream at the Sunday League ref every weekend, screaming down that it shouldn't be a yellow or it should be a foul? Is this the same person we're speaking to?
I think Liam will fully admit he should have been booked each and every time on occasions.
That's not how I remember it. To be honest, I asked polite questions as and when it was warranted.
Yeah. I remember you bowing at one point to one of the. No, I'm with you on that. Actually, I agree with the dissent. It's something that should be clamped down on. It's the only way you're going to get. If you look at Premier League football as trying to set an example as something that's always brought up, that Premier League football is meant to set an example and stuff. This is one way of clamping down on it and bringing some sort of normality back into the game. But it's funny seeing the amount of managers who've been punished so far as well.
Yeah, I think with regard to this, I think what we don't want to see is people not going into refereeing because of the amount of abuse that they're getting. And I know something that Luke talks about a lot of time, this idea of referees being held to account, and this idea, we can't make refereeing the most awful thing in the world, or no one will do it. So across the whole pyramid, we've got to have people treating referees better.
Yeah. Do you not think is it not a culture thing in football? And I think at the top of it, are we not comparing it to like a rugby kind of aspect where they're all respectful? Is it always going to be in the kind of football aspect where we're going to be like this to refs?
There's a lot of bad things that have been in football that have now gone. So there's no reason why this can't be as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's good points you should take out of sports like rugby. Doesn't have to mean we're going to turn it into rugby and all sit there and
drinking our own piss and stuff like that.
Sit there in a top hat and monocle and have a lovely Sunday afternoon. I think the goal is to increase respect for referees, and like you said, Liam, you want people to be referees. You want these people to get better at the job. We want this to be seen as an important and valued part of the game. That's how I see it. So finally, the other main sort of change that they've been putting in is the denying of a clear goal scoring opportunity rule, which when I was looking at the fine lines of it, I always thought it was this double jeopardy rule where you couldn't get sent off if you were the last man and it was a penalty. Or so, like, you couldn't get sent off if it was a penalty as well. But they've sort of made that clearer now.
Yeah, word clearer. So essentially, that is now the case, sort of in writing, that if you give the foul away in the penalty area and you deny a clear scored opportunity, you can't be sent off. Now, there was still a case in the previous rule where you could be. If, let's say, if there was a no attempt to play the ball, for example, you could then still be sent off in the double jeopardy rule.
Because I remember, this is just my memory, but David Luiz against Wolves a couple of years ago, where he accidentally tripped the player. I think his trailing, his knee caught the player's trailing leg.
David Luiz, so yeah.
I know, God, I can't believe I have to refer to him as a former Arsenal player still. But it happened and he got sent off. And I couldn't get my head around this double jeopardy rule. So yeah, they're making it clearer.
Yeah. Luke, what are your thoughts on the new legislation?
Well, from what you describe it, if it's easy for refs, so be it. It sounds like it kind of brings out that grey area. So yeah, I'm for it as well.
Yeah, I think it's more about the fans. I think it's making it clearer for fans, because I think fans struggle a lot sometimes with denying clear scoring opportunities and these ideas of double jeopardies. And when you start complicating rules, it gets harder for fans. So I think they're just trying to make it clearer so kind of everyone knows what a red card looks like. There's also more of a push to give yellows as well. So be restrictive on the red. It has to really be a red. So we'll take the Van Dijk example from last night. Once Isak touches that ball to go past Van Dijk, that is a clear goal scoring opportunity. Like there is no grey area with that. It is a complete red card. If Isak hadn't have touched it and the ball was running through, if he catches him with his foot, then there may be a case of a yellow there now. But if Van Dijk was to grab him or pull his shirt where it's literally no attempt to play the ball, then they may be inclined to give a red. So it's like there's an element of deliberate to it now as well.
Just 2 points. Is it because I've just reading the rules? Is it just in the penalty area or this outside the box as well?
The rule changes inside the area. So yeah, you're right on that. The outside the box changes is more of what they call a directive, where the Premier League are saying to referees, try and give more yellows. If it's more of a yellow, go for the yellow. We're trying to avoid people getting sent off for it. So
just on that point, I don't know if you two watched the United game. There was a red card in that game. Basically, Bruno Fernandes was running through and the ball got knocked over and the central defender took him out.
He was the last man.
It kind of, and this is where it was a bit of grey because it seemed like there was the other central defender right next to him, but the VAR determined that Bruno Fernandes was going to get the ball. When the replay showed it to me, it looked like the ball was too far away. So again, it was a bit of a. Obviously, he got sent off, but I thought it was a bit of a grey area, and I thought it was a bit of a maybe the incorrect decision. If you guys saw it,
unfortunately, didn't see this. But I do have one question. How was it? Worrell that got sent off off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Right. So, did Worrell try to play the ball?
No, he pulled him down.
Right, he pulled it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this is sort of bleeding into what they're talking about a little bit then, because if you're pulling someone, that's a very deliberate act to stop them, and the directive is that should be then a red.
Far away from Bruno Fernandes, and he was another central defender quite close, so it was determined would the central defender get the ball. So it was a bit like
there's going to be a subjective element to that all the time. That's one of the things that makes it harder to deny a clear goal scoring opportunity. Just on this sort of anecdotally, when I was sort of 15, 16, trying to be a referee, Lee Mason, I remember Martin's a big fan of Lee Mason. I know Arsenal fans
Wagger!
Big fan of him. But he did a presentation for us as young referees on denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. And I just remember it being very interesting, this idea of how the referee's position made such an importance on this decision. And like, it was such a difficult thing to be right on. And you're quite rightly, you're sat there analysing, is another centre-back going to get in? But back then it was the idea of, I think if I remember rightly, the idea that as fans we'd focus on this idea of were they going to score or not? But that's not the rule. It's were it a goal scoring opportunity. So is Bruno Fernandes' next touch going to be a shot, for example?
His next touch looked like it was probably through on goal. If he does like control it, his next touch is on goal. And
I'm shocked it's Bruno that's involved in this. By the way, that was a big shock to me.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine hearing this. I'll fill you in, put some colour in it, Liam. But there was no complaints from the defender. He knew that he'd pulled him. He went straight off. He didn't even look at the ref. He was like, "Yep."
Well, so Trafford, innit? No point arguing it. Everyone knows what that means.
Look, I didn't watch the match or see this, but did that go to VAR? Was that a check? It did go,
and that's why it went to VAR, and they said, "Can you check it?" It took a while, and then it goes back to our first point where it was like this 11 at the end of the game where it was extra time.
That's right. Well, this is the thing with the added on time. Just circling back to the first point, but that isn't time wasting.
Yeah,
that is no part of the game.
Yeah, you want a red card checked.
Yeah.
So they're the main 3 points, and from everything I've seen and heard, it seems like that the game is heading in the right direction. I think the players and clubs will get hold of it, as opposed to one of these new fad sort of rules that comes in and is gone by Christmas, and the referees just stop implementing them. I think there's enough traction behind this for it to keep on and change the game for the good once the initial barrage of yellow cards dies off a little bit.
Yeah, if I'm going to say it, I think that's key to it. I think the players learning quickly about particularly delaying the restart of play, I think that's going to be key to it, because otherwise you're going to struggle to get certain loudmouth media types that get a yellow card against their team, who will then just say, this is wrong, like, he's kicked the ball away. He's not, and I think, then that sort of armours the fans up against these types of changes, when I think they're all trying to improve the game, I think. I'd be surprised if people didn't think that with these.
Yeah, and I hope the players do catch on quick, because these yellow cards are costing everyone a fortune in fantasy football points. I mean, surely that's the most important thing and the reason why we're all here. Luke, how are we getting on?
I think Liam's 1 point ahead of me, so not great.
And I've never played it before. It's my first time as well.
But just for the listeners, it's Liam's first time every season. Every season we've done this since we're about 15. It's his first time. He's not doing it again. I think that wraps it up. Luke, I want to ask you though about what you think about the referees like Howard Webb, who is taking a more active media role as being a voice for referees. And we've seen Mike Dean come out of active refereeing and VAR refereeing, and now being sort of a media personality. I mean, I'm all for him going and getting some money. But what do you think about referees having a voice in the open nowadays?
I feel that this is the fix. So we have Monday Night Football, and I think it should be a kind of section on Monday Night Football where the refs come out and give a statement and say, right, we've made these errors this weekend, and then they say, well, we kind of give their apology, because that.
Let's individually though. I do agree with you, but not individually. Like Howard Webb, for example, is on Monday Night Football as well, and he's the guy.
He should come out. He should have a section and say, "Look, we made these mistakes this weekend," and it should be out there in the open and say, "Right, we're holding arms up." Obviously, what he does now, he says, "Look, we're still learning. We're trying to make things better." But I think that should be kind of out in the public after every fixture all Monday night and just say, look, here's how we're gonna. Here was the problems, and here's how we're gonna fix it. Because, for instance, there was that situation again with United's keeper Onana. Well, it was a clear penalty, wasn't it? And the ref came out and spoke to the manager and said, "Look, we got this wrong." And I think that should be again Monday Night Football or just a statement, just a list of what they think they got wrong this weekend.
That'd be a boring show.
It's just a segment. We've got it down to a segment, not the Howard Webb show.
It's not for me. I'm not always looking for refs to always apologise, and that undermines them a lot of the time if they admit they're wrong every single week. Are we going to have confidence in them? I don't think it. Well, it's not for me. I know a lot of people want it, but I'm not asked personally.
I'm 100%. I couldn't be more on the fence with this. Sometimes I do want clarity and apologies and whatever else from referees when it's Arsenal. But when it's United, I want it ignored, and that's just what it should be.
I want it laughed at. I want the PGMOL to release a statement just says piss myself laughing. It's never United.
So no, you're right. But yeah, on the other hand, pre-VAR, I thought we had the best chunk of referees across the world. They were lauded out. They were doing World Cup finals. They were doing Champions League finals. And I think our standard of refereeing was something to be admired. Post VAR, I think we have lobbied a lot of blame at referees, and hopefully, I think these rules can go away to giving them a little bit more power and voice on the pitch, and hopefully a bit more respect.
What was your thoughts on the Mike Dean comments? I basically said I didn't put it to the ref. I can't remember which referee it was. I didn't pull him up on it, and I should have, basically. What do you think of them comments?
I think people only take Mike Dean seriously when it suits their agendas. Like, he's someone I don't pay any mind to at all. Like, I'm not interested in what Mike Dean has to say. Because he just says things. I don't think he thinks about his words. I'd be, honestly, shocked if that's how it played out in his head at the time. Or if he just sat there opposite Simon Jordan, just trying to be interesting for the sake of it. No, I don't pay it any mind whatsoever.
Yeah, the comments, lot to be desired. Just made you think that referees is a big boys club that is borderline corrupt, and it's jobs for the boys. And yeah, I agree with Liam, though. I think Mike Dean is one step away from being on Strictly, as opposed to having anything to do with football anymore. So yeah, that's where I stand on it. I don't think there's as much substance in as some media would like to believe. But at the same time, he said it, and there's some cause for concern.
I guarantee within 3 years that Mike Dean will have been on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I
think we should run a poll after this. Which reality TV show is Mike Dean going to appear on first?
Definitely I'm a Celebrity.
I'm going Strictly because he's good at going backwards.
Good answer. Facial expressions actually be quite good on Strictly a bit, actually.
Right, so I think that pretty much wraps up refereeing this week, boys. Liam, thank you very much. I am well educated now. Luke, please thank Liam. Have some decency. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Much appreciated. Thank you for everyone who's sharing and liking and commenting. If you do have any questions, please send them to me if you've got my phone number. And if you've not got my phone number, comment on YouTube. I would much prefer that so Luke can see it and prove that it's not a fake account.
And also, if anyone wants Luke's number, I will give it them.
Yes, private message Liam. You can have Luke's phone number, his address, anything you need. Just to get in touch with him, only for contact purposes, obviously. No, seriously, thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's joined in with Fantasy Football. We're on 114 people who are in that league, which is, I think that's pretty good.
Who's winning out the hosts at the moment?
I'm going to say you for bringing that up because I haven't checked recently. But I know
first time ever.
There is our 3 teams individually, and then there is the joint podcast team. and Liam is winning. So, yes, again, thank you everyone. Please continue to do so. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does mean the world of difference to us. We are across all social media on fixingfootballpodcast.com. Thanks very much, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, boys.
Cheers, lad.
Bye, everyone.